differences between these teams. As we get into the operator ban phase, let's start off this first map in this best of 3 to find out who our second semi-finalist will be.
Now, one of the things I'm quite curious about on this map, and it was highlighted a little bit on the desk when they talked about entry and they talked about who's hot and who's not, but the best entry or the most consistently involved in the entry on both teams is NiP's best player and Rogue's technically worst player at this event. It's something where if Leon is able to start putting in early fights against Psycho, removing them from the round, removing them from the problem, that might turn into a bigger problem than if it goes against them. Then if it goes the other way, sure, you still lose that entry fight, but at the same time, that cost, that translation of just what you've been able, or who you've been able to remove from your opponents, huge.
Now, Hard Breach is something that is not too important on this map. You might still be wondering why the Thatcher does get removed. This, of course, due to the fact that there is still some small Hard Breach elements that need to be taken care of on some of these sites, but, you know, Thatcher also just completely disables things like ADSs, serial laser gates, or Mamai discs, which make these grenades so much more effective. And we've seen the grenades be very effective, so still very logical. And VALKYRIE in line, pretty okay, pretty default bans on a map like Coastline, truly. So nothing too, well, much out of the ordinary there.
So, let us get into another showdown. Now, if you were somehow, unfortunately, not here for the first semi-final, first of all, the result's probably spoiled, but it's one of those magical games where at the end of this, go back and watch it, because the journey that got the team that won to where they are, it was not easy, it was hard fought, and it was a heck of an end to a best of 3. And here I am, sitting, wishing, dreaming, and hoping that we have another 3-map screamer.
I was like, just before we started, the shaking was stopping. That's how close that game was. The adrenaline was truly there. It was a very, very important and a very close game. And that means we're heading into the second semi-final now. NiP, reigning world champions, not major champions. That was Team 1. They were already eliminated. And Rogue, the team who went into stage 3 hoping to avoid relegations and now somehow found themselves in the semis of the Sweden Major, and of course qualified for the 6th Invitational as well, because that was the well, almost impossible feat according to many, because they will be knocking out TSM.
I mean, it's a heck of a story, isn't it?
It is a good story.
You think of Modern Rogue, and before this and before Split 3, you sort of saw them as a bit of a fable. It was a great opening split. And in fairness, this wouldn't have been their first major performance as a 5 if, obviously, the November Major, or the August Major last year had happened. But it didn't, so this is. And it's time for them to absolutely keep proving it, but they don't really have to, because what they've done already here is so big. As Leon said, there was no expectations. And when there is nothing to lose, the only other side of that is you have everything to gain.
Yeah, whereas NiP, you know, they started off a bit rough. They do that every time, however. They're a tournament team. They just grow into it here, as the first set of X-Scars already being deployed on a mirror window, crying, quickly going over to stop the X-Scars from popping off. Really keeps on enabling them to actively challenge from the vase area up into the balcony, through the door. Psycho on that double window here, hoping to catch up a rotation again, because that's where Crying came through the last time around. The next set of X-Scaros will be used. That member on that double window now. Psycho will stop anybody from running across and getting the X-Scaros, and that means a small opening has been made.
Well, Aces has to fall back now, steadying away. Not going to try and dig in against that mirror window for too long. There's too many potential ways to cut off that flight, let alone get into the fight itself. Still have the reinforcements, but actually goes for a slightly different approach there and gets that all locked in, reinforced in the back corner bunker. They have the ADSs and some idea of the pressure that might come through, but just ensuring that the grenades don't come flat. Instead, they go as an attempt to underneath. It is a lot of destructibility underneath big core parts of this site, and that makes it a bit awkward when you're bouncing around Hall of Fame. Psycho, in the meantime, gets another one added to a statistic of opener, but it's Rips. Someone who doesn't often find himself in that firefight, first gone.
Remember, with Hookah falling into the hands of NiP, that's still not the side gone. We're in the penthouse now that needs to be taken under control, and Leon is going aggressive here on the Hall of Fame, spots out ahead, but is going to be able to pick up the kill somehow there. Surely he was going to fall there and instantly get traded out, however.
Well, that wasn't really a fight Leon could or should win. He could, but the second was a could not. Now, Cryin gives a bit of attention down towards the front lobby door. Might not have known somebody was going for the rotate, but Julio has an idea that somebody's trying to pull his way back around here. It's Aces. He's more than happy to lean into fights, but the longer he sits here, the more danger there might be from Pino or somebody else trying to apply some pressure. The grenade goes to where they were holding a little bit of time ago, and that allows Cryin to actually sneak his way past that big open door. They weren't giving it the same watch as before, up on the rappel, and suddenly it becomes a bit of a danger spot. A swing, and Kamikaze gets a great take. Round into the 90 corner, but 10 seconds left up the stairs. Cryin screams back, and it's a 2 versus 2 out of nowhere. The spray onto the side, the diffuser is cold. A mad dash in a last fight on a corridor. Psycho can't get there in time. And they just hold on for the first round.
Just hold on indeed. Prano inside that shower, truly key. Let's pick up that double kill there, drop the diffuser, and yes, he instantly got traded afterwards, but the player was too far out of position. Was no way he was going to be able to pick up that diffuser and go for a plant, so was forced to go for the kill. But had no clue where the last member of Rogue was, so they start off with a win here on their defense. And now they're heading towards Hookah Billiards. Now they're headed towards that side that many would consider the primary. As we quickly go for some of these replays here. Beautiful shot from Psycho. Just that pixel perfect accuracy. Really leading them in, but Rogue able to go for the clutch. A 2 and 4 clutch to be exact, with 15 seconds left. It's an explosive start, but it's something that they cannot keep relying on.
They tried to find where a lot of the Rogue players were, and they did. Coastline, structurally, there's not a huge amount to it in terms of places you can hide away. It's not a map where you dig yourself in and you go for these huge roams from later on. It's all short, it's sharp, it's dangerous, it's spicy for what it is, and that is the thing where I thought we saw NiP slightly stumble, because they had ideas of where players were. There was obviously knowledge of Aces who wanted to come round across the backside of Luggage. There was an idea of Cryin round outside Lamborghini doorway, but NiP was still sort of working out, well, do we go for them? Do we dedicate more manpower to this fight? Do we find ourselves in? It's something that as the game goes on will probably become less of a conversation, but the longer it goes for, especially starting on their attacks, the more it plays into Rogue's hands.
We'll definitely start playing more in their hands right here. Cryin playing on that Oryx. Now, it's an operator that we do see quite often on a map like Coastline. I mentioned it before, there is limited rotation possibilities. The Oryx just creates a couple more. You gotta make sure that you have these hatches open up before you can just jump up on them. As a result, suddenly pop up, or at least keep the pressure up. Let the attackers think that you are gonna be popping up. It's gonna be enough for them to at least put some pressure down on you.
Leon Gids on the Jaeger, going for a bit of an explorer underneath, and Julio's going to take his time, drone it out. There is knowledge that he's been spotted, but Sunrise is a fight whatever happens. You have some solidity that you can slink around and move away from, but again with Coast, the longer you are and the sharper the team is in terms of wanting to remove you, the more dangerous and decisive these plays start to become. Heading up to the top, you can hear the air jabs being dropped to make sure that any run out is stopped from the office side, or the potential of the kitchen window potentially. It's that big flip of the coin and that big decisive moment of where are we next going to see an explosion? I don't know, but with most of the time, or half the time even, of the round gone, the setup done, where do you start from?
That is a missed opportunity, but Pino Wall still will be able to pick up the kill through the wall, spotted him through the pixel and just went for the softball right next to it. Leon Gids, the first to fall. Muzi now aggressive inside of the aquarium, will take care of the default chem and gets spotted, however, by Rips. Needs to have a response already game through on the other side of the map, though, as Muzi here in a bit of a firefight on his own in the Luggage side.
Holding it off, Muzi's waiting for somebody to swing around. You have Kamikaze on the watch as well, but it's Muzi that locks it out and puts them into that body balance buff once again. There's the run out, though. Thought they'd stopped it, but Cryin just gets caught off by Muzi, who is doing a lot of cleanup work in these early engagements. Aces buys a few seconds alongside Prano, and they have a moment to breathe, but suddenly, over 30 seconds, the entire game has shifted into a pretty tricky situation for the two remaining players. There's a lot of drones that are slowly sinking their way up to the top of the stairs. They're trying to find out what is a go on Cool Vibes, and I think as soon as they read that nobody is a go, they might be able to put the charge to those back two players.
First grenade failed from Muzi. The second one is not optimal as well and will not hit any of the remaining Rogue members. A 2-on-3 currently. We just saw a clutch happen 2-on-4. This is just a single man left, and Esperano goes quite aggressive here next to the pool table. He has the opportunity to pick up one, yet once again it's the Defuser drop. That is going to be big.
The Defuser cold, 15 seconds and a look off with the smoke canister, and suddenly NiP have to push, but look how far away Muzi is. They're either side of Aces and they're able to pick that one kill up. Prano gets revenge, gets bold and gets a shotgun out. Hopped and popped and they've gone around for the Defuser, ring around the rosies, but only Prano is going home with the prize.
50-50 gamble there from Prano, deciding to just push through. Had no clue whether it was going to be pushed from the hallway of FaZe or if the jump through to Billiards was going to be the play. Worked out in the end there, and yet again Rogue managed to come back in these last final seconds when they're at a man disadvantage. And it all started off with the entry yet once again. Pino spotted him, went through. Just a beautiful one-tap there from Aces actually.
Yeah, that was just woo.
Well, it was quite of a free kill. They had no clue he was there, but the SMG is still a tricky weapon. And good trading from NiP though. They were up until the 2-2 point, constantly on top of Rogue once they would be able to pick up a kill.
Again, 2 rounds to time. 2 times NiP haven't quite been able to get that lock off, and as I said, it's in a way teething issues into a game. You've got all of the nerves, everything that's come into this, and finding out how your opponent plays. Sure, you can do all the preparation in the world, but when push comes to shove, you have to know how they stumble. And Rogue is still playing into that, playing against that, and as long as they are, that secretive, dangerous 6th person on a team in Siege is time.
And that keeps ticking down ever since the action phase starts. And that is what truly puts up the pressure onto the attackers.
10 seconds remaining.
Give them 2 minutes extra and suddenly everything is a lot more clear. Like,
5 seconds left.
decisive as well in the end. But with that time, those 3 minutes, you just try and waste as much as you can by letting them clear out the roams, letting them clear out the outer rooms that directly lead into the site. And the more you can stall, the better the chances are of winning on your defense. Quite logically speaking.
Rogue are playing one of their favorite games, which is operator juggling. Now we're seeing Leon picking up the role of the Jaeger and trying taking the Oryx instead. They're sort of jumbling themselves up onto every single site, and it sort of plays well for them because it adds more to that air of unknown. Is who are you going to find and where and why and what are they doing? Oh no. And even if it just becomes a bit of a lack of intel, a bit of a lack of coordination of communication and consideration over who is what and why and where and when, that is time. That is a bit more of a breakaway. And NiP are just going to have to start pushing past that, ignoring the game that Rogue has played and try and remember the game that they can do so well. The start. And the approach is on Luggage, and Aces might not know that the drones are whirring his way.
There's some support though on the white stairs. Muzi might be finding himself in between a pinch if he goes any further. There you have it. Aces just swings him and gets that first kill. They want to go for more though. However, they want to retake the theater, and Espino falls as well. Psycho that seems to be aware that a rotation might be coming back into Luggage. He's trying to hold on. He's trying to keep these angles, but currently Rogue is not giving anything away to the side of NiP.
A really great move there, as you said, over the white stairs. Psycho at least finds one back now. He is a big drive player and the best performer statistically in the showdown, so you expect to see big things from him. But can they go even bigger here? They're trying to creep their way back around Luggage and get a repackaging on the players that have long since left. They've pushed all the way away from Penthouse, and now as Julio goes for this double down clear, they are just elsewhere. They've fallen flat onto the floor. They know that they've done the damage on the top and know, well, we don't need to keep doing that.
2 members of Rogue fell back to the bottom floor here, and the Defuser and Kamikaze not really moving at all. They need to, of course, go to that kitchen. You can no longer plant in that service door. You need to go deep now, and well, with the amount of pressure that NiP currently have, it's not looking very good. They have no vertical control as the sledge died quite early on, wasn't able to do his job, and well, that makes sure that Rogue just need to hold off these angles now.
Pre-fires come around and the drone hits the ground just as Psycho does too. A drive back, but Cryan's there, and gets a bit of revenge and runs away. 30 seconds. And Julio is in a position to find the fight back. There was an idea of trying to put the pressure back onto the double door, and as the proximity pings, they're just going to lock it off with an air jab. But it's Coastline. It's sight lines. It's huge bylines of destruction where they just make sure that any few steps are taken and locked off Leon. One more, and this might be the first time we see a round not enter time, but that will only be if NiP find a fight, and there it is. Rogue with their third in a row.
Leon Giz looking it off, and this was also the first round where Rogue was in the lead, where they weren't trailing and men are 2 behind at the very final 15 to 20 seconds. Now, leading out of 3. Quickly looking over the desk. Just saying this one would probably not be a team running away with it in that first half. So far though, Rogue, well, 3 rounds in a row.
Jess said it's likely not going to be a team running away with it because of the weight of the map.
Yeah.
If a team is running away with it in the early half, that means that the team is showing up. That's the takeaway from our analyst desk, and that's what we're going to lean into here. And to be fair, that was technically the best round Rogue has played so far.
It was, and there is going to be a tactical timeout called, I believe, by the side of NiP, because they are currently 3-0 down. Now, mind you, the first 2 rounds came on the back of sort of clutches. It wasn't a 1vx, it was a 2v4 and a 2v3. Twice, Rogue were able to still bring that back into their advantage due to the fact that time is also on their side. NiP needed to move quickly. They did not have time to clear out room by room systematically. And a player like Prano just popped up, got that double kill, dropped the defuser. The round afterwards as well, the defuser dropped. It was a 50-50, deciding on where to rotate to. But both of them went in the way of Rogue. And that brings us currently to that 3-0. But it could have just as well been a 2-1 to NiP right now. It could have been the complete opposite of stories.
That's it. First 2 rounds, an extra 10 seconds, and NiP, as you said, very likely to have been able to lock it off. So that's why they're taking their tack time out now. They know how close they were, and they're going to make sure that Rogue aren't allowed to keep building on the momentum that they're letting slip through their fingers. They have 3 more chances. 3 more chances to lock an even half and live in the statistics that this map doth offer.
I want to say something. I really like it when teams do this. There's the quaternary side to come out now, the 4th side that is being shown. Sometimes they see teams that if they lose all 3 sides in their attack, they call a tactical timeout. Sometimes, you know, the coach has the opportunity to directly call adaptations for the 3 sides we have already seen to continue that rotation for the rest of the half and potentially lock it off for that 3-3. However, right now, Rogue are deciding to go to a new site. Of course, basics still count in terms of trading, information gathering, etc., etc. However, these site-specific notes that were just given to them will be of no use, at least during this round. Round 5 is when they will come to play again. As Ace is looking to go for a spawn peek here, but doesn't seem to be able to hit anybody. Position seems to be known, though, by the side of NiP. Psycho quickly checking that window as the rest of them are starting to put the pressure down.
The single loose player waiting on service door is crying, ready for a bit of a run out and potential revenge. He's hoping he doesn't get caught here and hoping he can sit there for as long as possible and all the focus comes above him. He's going to steady his way over Hall of Fame and the drones get the lock off either side. A Mozzie Pest means he doesn't quite get the clear entrance, so he's opening a side route, and there it is, crying, saying, well, maybe there's a pickup we can do. Maybe it's the rappel out on this door, and maybe Leon is going to offer some potential countenance here on the white window. Draw the eye, draw some focus, and go for this 2-story push. Potentially a hop out, potentially a run out. Julio is most likely the one that they want to make a victim.
Some pings are coming out, and Cryan went for the run out, but was just not able to spot Julio, who now enters and joins Pino in the either push for the luggage or to go downstairs and put the pressure on security, onto Sunroom and the office, as that is a direct entry into the site. Don't forget, though, they have the sledge available this time. During the kitchen hold, we did not really see that verticality coming into play due to the sledge being taken out early. Pino, now being alive, has the opportunity to work with his team to take that top floor in control and start opening up these vertical angles that don't allow Rogue to play inside. But default or pre-play C4s together with the default cams, that will be a true and big danger for them.
So, yet again, we find ourselves in a situation where NiP are trying to find that first rogue player, but I love that NiP have found themselves inside the building. Often at this point in those early 2 rounds, they were still sort of structuring outside and making sure that I guess they had an awareness of the rotation, but here, that lockdown, that immediacy that they can offer to the fight if it starts to come to a boil, that will get them that extra 10 seconds, that extra 20, potentially, that might have won them those first 2 rounds. Psycho has the long range, and Prano's thinking about trying to find a fight, but doesn't want to overextend. It puts Rogue for the first time in the state of, do we, don't we? What do we want to throw ourselves into, and where is it about to pop from? Well, a little split walk-in is the first.
As long as there's no big pressure coming down, it's Psycho with the very first kill. I was going to say Prano allowed to be playing there, but Rogue going for the retake on the top floor. 2 men are up there, but Julio will be able to catch him off both as Aces finds a response to the other side of the map.
Rips is now locked in on Cool Vibes, trying to stop the threat and the push towards him, and now he is the only one trying to stop the pressure inside the plant spot, and he doesn't quite get anything from it. NiP. And as I said, the lockdown was internal. The eyes were angled to the right place. The double on the flank was huge, but also look at where the rest of them were. They were so ready this time, and it's up to Rogue to see if they can increase their pace.
Single round so far in the hands of NiP against the 3 from Rogue. Still nothing too much to worry about. And Penthouse Theater will be up next. Going back to that site we do not very often see, but in the hands or with the hands of a mirror, suddenly becomes quite, well, a fortress. In the right hands, at least. And you see that double kill from Julio really just lined up. He just needed to press that left mouse button, didn't even need to transfer as they were both stacked up on one another.
15 seconds left.
Just allowed them to clean up. They had that man advantage and continued on from that. The Penthouse coming in. And the mirror windows will be playing a key role. Has been 6-picked in. Surely NiP would be aware that this is an operator that they do play.
Yeah.
So they don't really, you know, walk into these big surprises like, oh, there is a mirror window. How are we going to deal with this?
Oh, this is here.
This is here. How are we going to deal with that? Well, they have the opportunity to use the Xcaros, for example, or try and ping it out with the new ping system that is in for quite a while now in the meantime. Use some verticality to get rid of it. It's not really new.
It's old new.
It's old.
There's other stuff coming. One of the things that we talked about in terms of old and new is the old attempt on this site and the new NiP we saw in the previous round. It was slow and it was cautious, and they put the pressure onto Aces on Cool Vibes from flat and outside, pushed him away, and then tried to pick up an enter elsewhere. That was a different game on the last round. They made sure that they kept that pressure internal, as I said, and I'm curious to see if that is the opening lead-in and if Rogue is maybe expecting a little bit more threat and pressure. It's also worth sort of throwing our minds back and realizing that at one point, NiP had been able to crouch walk their way into VIP, put some pressure onto the player onto 90, and then suddenly find themselves swinging down Hall of Fame, but again, with only about 15 seconds left.
Here you have it again. The Xcaros will be used to get rid of that mirror window, but I believe this time a Mew Gemmer will stop it from detonating. That means Rips does not have to make the long run around. It's crying, actually. Does not have to make that long run through past the big window that could deal to his death or lead to his death. Leon actively trying to challenge the balcony. He's making sure that no one will be entering the aquarium, but rotates are coming around from Rogue's side. The question is, how will NiP deal with this? Well, first of all, they got rid of the Mew Gemmer, and that means that mirror window will now be unplayable.
And there is a watch that we did not see last time. Aces was able to run away from that and slip his way back towards the site, and this time no avail because they were prepped for that. Whether it was just because it took a little bit longer or whether they leaned into it, either way, they're definitely leaning into the fight around it. Julio finds Kryan, finds a player who went for the run-out kill before. NiP are learning. NiP are reimagining. And they're renovating the players as one more gets taken out from underneath. Rips is gone. And that tag timeout is proving monumental for the Ninjas.
Know exactly where these Rogue players are, and they're taking them out one by one by one as Prano gives away his place, knows where they are, they know where he is now, and Leon, the actual only player in the current site now, gets his one mirror window taken away from him as well. He's playing next to the bed. Currently, no pressure really coming down from the big window, no pressure coming down from the showers as of yet, but that soon will change as Pino will be hammering it open now. A minute left on the clock and a 5v2 clutch this time that they need to pull off, but the two of them, it's an extra man compared to the last time around.
NiP is still holding down. They have so much time. And there's such a stark difference to how it was before. The barb will give a little audio cue as the player slips away, and the canisters are going to buy themselves some time, but they might now know that Prano is potentially alone onto the site itself. There's also still the concern that Nomad goes for the swing, but Leon is potentially about to try something huge. They've pulled themselves entirely away. Nobody is currently on that run out. It was a bit of a swing and a spray. They have the nitro, as you said, underneath. They're going to see if they can get a connection, but they're not on the default. But Julio gets taken on the swing. It's a 4 versus 2 retake. Prano's at least found his way into the site, but the lying down man, the one behind the bed, is the first stress he might be able to call to the rest of the players. Leon goes for the rotation, hits an air jab, and finds his seconds dwindling away. An aggressive creep towards it, but the spray over the top means it's even tougher, and tough was already there. A deep fight from that Vector on the far side. Probably isn't going to be able to get him towards that plant in time. Every player is making sure he's met by bullets, and as these seconds keep ticking away, it's NiP that take us to the last round and a half.
Yet another one. 3-2. NiP's bringing it back here after the 3 rounds in a row, and they're starting to grow into the match. We're starting to find out how Rogue plays. They know exactly where these players are located. Grenades are coming up from below. They cut off the rotations as well, as they seem to have figured out how the rotations work on their side. And at the end there, Leon gets trying to gamble it on the Nitro Cell. Would have the opportunity to pick up the Diffuser or the Diffuser carrier, but for the amount of time that was left, surely they had the opportunity after that to pick it up, go for a plant, and still put them in a 2-on-4 situation compared to the 2v5 it was earlier. Anuka Billiards will now be chosen. The very final site Rogue will go to on their defense. As they started off 0-3, they surely want to be locking this off with a 4-2.
Well, that's it, and that's the big problem right now, is they're the ones that have to do it. NiP came back with a blinding response, and yeah, okay, those first 2 rounds were close, but Rogue had started to find their feet, and their third and their final at this current moment. Their last defense round that was a success was a good success. It was their control. They were putting the pressure. They were confident. And since then, they're finding themselves caught out by an NiP that has grown in awareness of their play. Final swing, final sight. Hookah in the terms of the half.
5 seconds to go.
And it's down, as you said, for them to try and find that 4-2 on their pick.
Now, after we just saw NiP make good use of that bottom floor, Rogue will have to make sure they keep that under control. The muted Mozzie combo is coming out. I believe, however, that the mutes will mostly be placed on the top floor, whereas Crying will be on that roam below. Using those pests to get rid of roams or deny any information gathering from the attackers. So they cannot just as well easily get these grenades into the right places. Cannot just pick up these free kills that cannot be traded. And 30 seconds have passed. And now Rogue will soon find out whether it's going to be a direct hit from the top floor or if the bottom floor will be contested first.
Psycho has been so big in this game so far, and he's one of those players that you pointed your eyes to and wanted to see a lot from. In the comparison, Aces, who was the comparison, hasn't quite been able to hit that same connection. Leon going for a bit of a bold spray. As we said, he is a consistent problem in terms of the opening engagement, and consistently it doesn't quite go his way. 44 attempts, and he's sitting on a +6 to be fair, but still, it's a huge figure to have on a player who keeps driving on a map like this, where it's so quick to the punch.
It's kind of a danger with Rogue, though. Aces is such an important player on that lineup. If he doesn't show up, then a lot rests on the shoulders of Prano and Crying, and Leon, who now gets taken down. It's a double entry here from the side of NiP, a triple even, as Aces takes a small bit of damage, falls back into the VIP, but he knows as well that the site is currently under control of NiP. C4s are being tossed out, but will not be able to hit anything, and that means they now need to solve this problem with just pure gunfights.
NiP just charging into the site, and this is that confidence you wanted to see from them. They're in the building, they're causing problems and finding fights. And that grenade, well, he has to hop out to survive it, but they knew where he was anyway. As Crying tries to find his way back up, cool vibes. Julio has the lockdown underneath, and the Mozzie is entirely encircled, and they are seemingly quite aware of this. And now he is the only one left, as he finds an open door full of bullets.
Went for the swing, was not able to pick up the kill, and now it is going to be that 3-3 even half. NiP able to bring back that first half as they were trailing 3-0. Rogue with a really good start, although it being on the back of two clutch-like situations, a 2v4 and a 2v3, which both turned into a 1v1 in the end, which is truly just a coin flip, if you know exactly where the other person is in that case. And now, they head over to the attack themselves. Rogue, this is where they need to make the difference if they want to take this first map. And we have seen quite some good attacks from them. The defenses, they have been quite weak.
Quite weak is a kind way of putting it. But to be fair, they were aware of that. And to be fair, their performances throughout this tournament has been some of the sharpest that they've been.
Definitely has been.
They opened this with 3 good rounds and it was getting hotter before it got locked down. You're against a good controlled team. You're against a team that knows how to restructure. It's an important part of NiP's play is their reimagining, which, as I pointed out, they didn't quite have. All were mistiming it in those early rounds. They showed you what they can do. And that's the danger that you've got to play into on the next couple of maps, unless you can now prove the dangers that have gotten you into this point and against their country folk who are, only the reigning major champions.
For sure. Some revenge to be given out here as NiP after SI and a bit of a disappointment during Mexico. Want to make up for that. They want to go to those grand finals and deny FaZe from their title. I was going to say, am I going to say spoiler alert? But no, just watch. Either way, Muzi takes a bit of damage here inside the office and will have to fall back. It's going to take that first initial part, but the most important thing is he is still alive. He's still in the battle, in the fight afterwards. And he's being the Warden. That means that smokes and flashbangs are not really that effective towards him, especially not if he activates his ability. It's just not too many smokes here right now. A total of 0, I believe.
That is.
Maybe 2 on crime.
That is the total. It says at least none in the top, but I know that you don't trust that corner, and Rips doesn't trust this round. He's 1 away from a meme from our socials of 007, so he's really got to try and find a bit of a swan song here in this latter half. And that puts Rogue on a bit of a back foot now. The slow creep underneath comes through. They've got themselves inside. They have the Finker to offer some assistance, and Crying on the F2 is going to try and push its way up to the top. The grenade at the same time is going to see if it can make a connection, but it does not. The rotation is not widened by the explosive that could have caught somebody on the top corner.
The grenades are being tossed in currently with no information, and that makes them less effective if you compare them to NiPs. They were consistently able to pick up these kills with them, as NiP now takes a whole lot of damage. It's Pino that gets hit by one of those grenades that was just tossed in. And Rogue, well, they need to make a choice. There's a minute 20 left on that clock. They want to go for the cool vibe stairs, it seems like, but also at the same time hit it horizontally from the balcony. But with the amount of members of NiP that are currently watching this area of the map, it is going to be a very, very tough execute here for Rogue.
Well, that was a very bold Gon 6 over the top. Saw a body that's going to instantly pull away. Kamikaze survives the grenade because he's moved to the opposite corner, but we have less than a minute, and now in this new location, it's going to be a heck of a fight. Prano, he's got an idea, and it's to stick the defuser, and it's suddenly a bit of a team kill, and an accident has given Rogue the body's upper hand. Julio takes a huge scrap around the Aqua side, and both of them are now doubled up with the upside down rappel, meaning Kamikaze is in a bit of a tricky spot with an SMG. Tries to get a connection, but Aces is not playing around the swing and the spray, and suddenly Julio is in a very tricky situation. The 3 versus 1, they have the lockdown, and Prano did what he has done so well this tournament. Okay, there was a point when he was the top 4 name in 4 different categories, but the one that he is still so consistent in is making sure that defuser goes down. And so does NiP for 3. Rogue find the lead once again.
After losing 3 consecutive rounds in a row, they have now found one yet once more. And I said it was going to be a difficult execute. They were a man down. There was 3 people on the side of NiP watching towards the hookah launch or hookah area. And they still managed to win those gunfights, go for that plan straight away, truly strike them with a bit of a surprise attack. Probably did not expect them to be that synchronized, going up on the blue stairs at the very same time as the push came through from the balcony. Leon gets here with the very first important kill, draws away all the information and the attention truly. Make sure that Prano can go for that plant. And now Kitchen Servers will be the next site. We will see from the side of NiP. They are not going to rerun it. They're not running it back. Going to a different side to continue their rotation as they would win the round. And that is something we see more and more often from every single team across the world nowadays.
Attackers.
4-3 Rogue, and the last time you were starting off a half, you were able to tie 3 in a row. Coastline does still lend itself well to teams that love to get into the arguments and the fights and the confrontations that it offers. Also, it's also not really a map that we've seen from them throughout this tournament. In fact, we haven't seen it from Rogue this tournament. This is the first time, and NiP played it not too long ago in the 8-6 versus SSG. So I'm curious to see what tricks they might be able to try and deploy, and if Rips can find his way into the fight.
Now, there's still mute jammers that are being deployed on walls. You just saw one on the VIP area. That one will quickly be opened up as soon as they find out. You can just simply get the X-Scarrows around it, shoot the mute jammer, and then move through. It's just a bit of extra utility that does have to be used, however, to get rid of it. You could also just go for the Twitch drone. It now has a very long range with that taser. And as you see right here, 4 corners are being shot out, and just 2 or 3 sets of X-Scarrows are not going off.
It gives them a bit of an angle, and they might be able to put some pressure around, but they obviously still have Crine on those Twitch drones. If he can get a long-range zap here or get a little bit of a movement with the new hop ability and the updated firmware, they might be able to firmly put themselves in charge of that section of the map. NiP, they're keeping themselves at arm's length for now. We saw a previous hold, it was quite flat, and suddenly everything exploded around Vars, and suddenly Psycho's exploded as Crine goes for the swing. The pressure's back, it's down the stairs, and it's a massive accident, but a huge take from Musi. A couple of Rogue players stacked up on top of each other and made a very easy cleanup, and what should have potentially just been 1 kill suddenly evolved into 3.
Yeah, for sure, Pino now being downed, however, as Crine looks away at the very worst timing in this matchup so far. Musi gets the quad, he's looking for the ace. Brano already low on HP, could be trying to find more, but with the angle that Musi is currently holding, as soon as they do find out, he will be swinging this window as well. From the long range, deals even more damage. Brano, aware that he is about to fall, could call this or could use this to quickly have a bit of a talk with the rest of Rogue and use this as a bit of a timeout here as once more damage is being done by the side of Musi.
He's trying to isolate a single 1 versus 1, and at this point he'll be well aware, if he wasn't already aware of the down man, that they are now up and fighting fit. More than enough time and space to be able to get them to their feet. The punch in the window and the spot on the player, but they don't get it, and it's an ace for Musi.
There's the window being punched in, and instantly returns fire as he takes a bit himself. And that brings it back to 4-4. We stay equalized. No team anymore is allowed to get 2 or 3 in a row. Both these teams want to be locking off this first map. And as Rogue, well, they had a bit of a come around on that first attacking round as they lost the player early on. This was just unlucky. Musi dropping down as soon as they go off the angle as well. They check the stairs, they push onwards, the first one falls. 2 of them at the same time wanted to go for the trade, and that is what eventually got them killed. If only one of them would have gone for it, there would have been the opportunity, of course, that they could have picked it up. Because the second person was afraid that it would team kill, held his fire, and got sprayed right after by the T5. So, bit of a miscommunication on the side of Rogue there.
It's always the problem. When it's your teammate in front of you, you have to stop shooting, but your opponent, well, his bullets are going to zip right through player number 1 into player number 2, and it was costly. It was massively costly for Rogue. It's not saying that it would have brought the round back into their favor, but it sure would have helped it not be so against them.
Now we're entering territory, though, where every round will be even more important. 4-4, round number 9. Whoever picks this up is going to be just that little step closer towards that first map point. It is, of course, the best of 3. You can't afford to lose this first map, but of course you do not want to. You want to be the one that puts on the pressure onto your opponent. Whether that will be NiP or Rogue, we will know in, well, roughly 4 to, I think it is 7 rounds until we find out. Either way, the top is being taken again. Trying to cut off these rotations is how it worked out from either team. Either of them were able to pick up a singular kill, and a couple of these rounds, But I believe that NiP not really eager, not really keen on giving them the opportunity to do so again.
Leon hot droned his way in through service and going to set himself up. They're taking territory and making sure it's marked with their mantle of intel as it goes. But Coast has that big problem. Is that core middle of the danger donut is a very quick rotation top to bottom, and it's only really one way, but it's a way that gives you quick angles into your opponents on any of the four corners pretty much. It also means that they can have eyes onto you, but if it's something that you play at the right time and pick off at least one in a scenario, it can be devastating for the approach here. Some grenades and some damage and some scare is put into the players above, but they can still lock it down and wait for the steady approach.
Where now that the player is right next to the castle barricade on the top of the white stairs here. The push will come soonish though. Just trying to figure out whether or not he will indeed be at that position. It will be a pop with the lifeline. However, Kamikaze has fallen off, and that means he will be safe for now. Well, backs into the theater here, and we continue on a 5-on-5 that we have been having for quite a while now. Just a minute and 10, 15 seconds actually left on that clock, as even more pressure comes down onto Pino, who gets a second explosive under his feet, but somehow manages to survive and not take too much damage.
Trying to find an angle on an NiP player is proving pretty tricky right now. They cannot quite get the connection to any of the movement. They have rough ideas. They have vague intel and little slivers, and that grenade is going to be the first take. Important as we just passed the minute mark. Musi looks for the fight back and takes it brilliantly. Choking on the own excitement as Leon chokes on the fight on the way up the white stairs. It's a double for Musi. And Crying in the chaos goes and pops a bullet towards the back of Rips, who's able to find his first. Finally finds a fight in, but unfortunately not for too long, and Crying suddenly left in a 3 versus 1.
No idea here where Psycho is, trying to swing around, eventually finds the fight and takes him out, but a lot of damage done. He's one shot now. Yureo himself low as well. There's the opportunity for a clutch, but the Aruni laser gate will definitely slow him down. He needs to find these frags. He needs to go aggressive now. It's definitely doable, but Pino is going to be able to lock it off.
Quite getting connection, whether it's the weight of the game, which as they set up to this point has not affected them. They've done what they came here to do, which is get into SI. And they did it by taking out the reigning major champions, which is a heck of a statement. And here now, as they're able to potentially prolong that statement, it's becoming a little bit shaky.
I mean, we want to see a close semifinals here. We do not want this to go into a clear-cut, you know, 7-0, 7-0 like we've seen from FaZe when it started off in the group stages. We want this to go all the way. Preferably all 15 rounds for every single map. The Sunrise and the blue bar, as just mentioned, is where NiP want to put themselves into map point. Question is, can they do it?
10 seconds
Have Rogues, you know, something prepared, something specially prepared? We've seen them execute quite a bunch of rushes, quite a bunch of quick plays. We might just as well see one of them coming in very soon as well, if they feel confident enough.
Well, hopefully Rips can build upon his first game, but even earlier on in the showing today, we saw a certain FaZe player absolutely miss the mark in the first map, and then, well, he found every single mark and some in the second, and Crying gets us off to a roaring start, drops one, attention to the hatch, and pulls away. Realizes he's not in the fight in the position, and this time Musi won't be able to lock off the trade, a game he's been so good at. Aces. One more importantly, Psycho is removed. They're starting to build up into this round now, and there's one more fight onto Waffish's side. They're going to pull away. There's 2 bodies and no important need for them to try and lock it in.
Now to have that 2-minute advantage here, they can just continue on trading. Right now, you have 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock. Just try and get the information, try and figure out what these players are, and hit them all at the very same pressure point. Lock them out one by one, bring the fights to them as a jump out is being prepared by Pino. As soon as that pressure comes through, he will be going for it. This drone might actually be the giveaway here if it comes true. Takes it out, falls back just slightly, but the pressure comes from the service door as well at the very same time.
That's it. It's sprays. It's Pino under pressure here, and they're seeing if they can lock it out from the kitchen window at the same time. It's a dabble, it's a dance, and it's a dare. And with a minute 30, they are playing with that time on their side. The spray in the fight, and Leon's going to look for a connection with the grenade. Bounced off the top of the racking. Doesn't get the connection, but Pino sure does. And Rips is knocked out of service. Slips away. Able to find a bit of an escape route here, and they're able to find a little bit of solidity onto the site itself, finding themselves back with open windows and a bit of pressure popping from the other split. Kamikaze is looking for a fight out the door.
2 players inside blue currently. The question is, do they have the information as the swing comes through? Prano drops the diffuser and drops himself as well as Cryin tries to strike back. It's a 3-on-2, a 2-on-2 now as it's up to Aces and Cryin. 1 above, 1 on the actual side, but the diffuser had been dropped outside and spots are coming in the meantime as well, allowing Muzi to creep up closer. But the spot is a mutual as well because Muzi has been spotted out by the side of Cryin now.
The spray from the hatch top to bottom, and that is a great take. Built on the intel, they know where the last man is, and Oryx is hot-footing it out of there. Takes the middle of the courtyard, and suddenly you are on the opposite end of the map. It is so quick. Coastline, and nobody does the distance quicker than Oryx. The spray over the top, corner to corner, but nobody is quite caught, and the pings are consistent. There's a drop fight there as NiP pushing themselves to map point on Rogue's map. It's the thing they did not want to happen. 2 rounds to fight, and they've got to win them both.
Gotta bring it back 2 rounds now indeed to bring it to overtime. And Rogue, they had the 2-man advantage, but they decided to not truly go for the high pressure, the quick plays that we've seen afterwards. No, they tried to slow it down maybe a bit too much. Take fights to individually. There was no big support surely coming through for one another, and as a result, yeah, that's how they picked him up. That's why I was so confused. It's just putting down the barbed wire and Cryin, just spotting out the mechanical arm. It was enough to get the kill in the end. The setup that was laid from NiP could have cost them the round, but in the end, Kamikaze, Muzi, and Pino, they were able to bring it back with some aggression as well. And I think that's due to the fact that Rogue was too disconnected. They were 5v3, and that's a beautiful flick, first of all. But they decided to push at 5 different points at a little bit of a disconnected time. And that enables NiP, I mean, they have been world champions before, so they know exactly how to play this game, to pick up these 1v1s and just slowly close it out. And find themselves now with 2 map points in their pocket. And kitchen service will be up next. Verticality will be key. They have to work on Rips, who hasn't really been able to find himself into this game too much yet, just a singular kill. So we'll have to support his team in different ways, which will be opening that up. That's a Rooney set, a double one, on the server's entry. So they might expect a rush to come through from Rogue. And they completely fended it off already before it even could happen.
We may find ourselves looking into a situation here where Rogue are a little bit struggling. They are still, unfortunately, hitting a bit of a misconnection between the fight that's offered before them and the fight that NiP are giving them. Julio slips away as Psycho is under a bit of pressure. Cryin is under even more. The hatch pops above him. They have an awareness he wanted to slip in, and he loops his way around that core of the office and pulls back a double grenade! Leon on the far side pulls off a heck of a shot, and suddenly Cryin, well, he's under even more pressure. Not because anything else has changed in terms of his fight, but because NiP need to pull something back. They know he's in there. They know he's roughly around, but they do not think it's worth the risk right now. Here's the replay of the grenade over the top, and it pops some rocks.
Nice double kill coming through there. It will be very important. Basically, no risk taken here. 3 kills, or 2 kills that were not able to be traded out, and right now a 3rd one will come in actually on the side of NiP. So Leon Gitz will go down, brings it back to a 4-on-3, and I've said it before, last round, exactly the same. 5-on-3. A disconnected push is eventually what led NiP to win that round. Rogue need to make sure that that does not happen again, as they have just lost their first as well. With just 90 seconds to go, the pings are coming through. Rogue need to pick up yet another kill to try and lock it off, and the first one might be coming in from the Cool Vibes, but wall bangs are being attempted here by Julio.
He opens up that quad wall and tries to find the man behind the bar. Aces is doing everything to offer some support and a wing and a prayer over to the far side, but it's Cryan that is the one dabbling and dancing. A big rotation over the top of the Cool Vibes was thought about, but the Oryx actually heads elsewhere. Again, the core of this dangerous map is still present and pertinent in all of the eyes and ideas of everything that might get played. Kamikaze has had a huge couple of rounds in these past and making sure he is that lockdown on the site, and here the site comes. Brano slips their way in, and the first fight falls both against them. Julio Kamikaze for one more. I said he was that backline, and here he is, living up to a wall. NiP get this first map, and it was Rogues. This was where they wanted to go, and now they have nowhere else to go but to a second map, their last swing, and it is Clubhouse.
It is going to be Clubhouse indeed. They need to make sure they